Okay, that's fine. So I'll not, like I said last class, if I remember very well, I said we'll not dwell much on big data security strategy because already Engineer Shonyo had asked me to introduce the security topic in big data, and that's what we did the past 2 lectures, just trying to outline why ethical hacking and digital forensics is important. So I'm just going to rush through this because I have 2 slides today. But before I get into the class, your assignments, I have received them. I was just putting marks just now, but I received them and I reviewed them. So when you are given a question like that, you have to assume you have visualization. I said the most important topic in your dissertation is the model design, model reporting your results. So as long as you don't shake up a communication of results, some of you were not even using the big data analytics life cycle to give you, and they were brilliant answers. But as long as you don't put them into the perspective here, big data analytics life cycle, it will be very difficult for anyone to understand, okay, so what exactly are you trying to say, especially if the question is already said using the big data analytics life cycle. So it's always the easiest way if you want to capture the eyes of whoever has hired you or the eyes of the examiner or the eyes of the moderator. Use the topics in the given hint. And the hint was use the big data analytics lifecycle. So I would expect you that you'll start, say, discovery, okay, to do the global centers of excellence in the discovery phase. This is the data that we want. These are the data sources. This is, something like that. And when we go to the model planning, we have these options and we'll hire someone like this to do this and do that, or we'll need this information and things like that in the model design, and now you're executing what you've already mentioned in the model planning. Then communication of results, you are assuming, given the data, this is how it's supposed to come out. That's how you present your solution if you are hired. Because the question is actually a question I faced with a different organization. And that's how you present your solution. You want them to visualize what they should expect at the end of the project. So you use your own dummy data and say, okay, so we are going to see something like that. That's why last class I was trying to use a dashboard so that you at least visualize, okay, what are we talking about when you say clustering, when you say classification, and when you use real examples, you put your WASH project. It needs this type of information. It's a geographical information system. So it needs this information. And then when we use a different aid system, it needs this different type of information. When you use a telecom system, it needs this different type of system. How are we going to place our base stations and things like that? So you need to understand, okay, if it's classification, how exactly am I going to present my data? Is it going to be a bar graph? Is it going to be a cluster graph? Is it going to be a chart? What is it going to be? So that the people who hired you gain confidence even before they give you the job. Or maybe you've already been given the job, but at least it makes your reporting at the end of the day. Even, do you know what you can be hired and then was hired that? When I say was hired data, it's like you've been hired, you were given the data and you do your analytics, but it really isn't something they should marvel about. So what do you do in cases like that? You bank on your emotional intelligence. You bank on the visualizations. They're easy for anyone to say, that is a lot of work that was put into perspective, and I can easily understand. Remember the first class when you're commenting, no, you've demystified a lot of things. I didn't do much, but the fact, as I lectured, I mentioned the courses that you have already come across or you're already doing. You thought it is a lot of work, or you thought I was putting things into perspective. I was already telling you things you knew, but you just didn't see it that way. It's one of the skills that comes with being a big data analyst. Some call it deception, but I like to call it putting things into perspective. So you just need to make sure that you have your demo data. I have a number of groups who just went into the topics like, okay, storage of information, this is what I'll do. Ingestion, this is what I'll do. When you are supposed to use the hint that everyone understands. Everyone understands the big data analytics lifecycle. It's just recently been called big data analytics lifecycle, but it has always been the data analytics lifecycle. So everyone understands data gathering, everyone understands model planning, everyone understands model building, everyone understands. So whatever technical terms you put, Pazasi, someone may zone out of the presentation for a second, but when they remind themselves, okay, what are we talking about? They remember it's model planning. So they say, okay, he has said a lot of things, but whatever the case is, still planning. They are more interested on the communication of results. Okay, so what should we expect? That is your biggest tool as a big data analyst. What should we expect? Suppose we give you this job, what should we expect? And then you bring out all these nice graphs. Don't make your graphs very dull and boring. Make them very colorful. You know, sometimes as we grow old, we tend to be young. I don't know if you, I'm sure most of us have come across that as we take care of our grandparents, if we take care of our parents in the old age, they tend to like back the things that they liked when they were young. The same principle is always applied in data analytics. Remember, like I said, some call it deception. When you bring something, don't make it very, very too colorful for a kindergarten, but make it colorful enough to be catchy. Like the slides I prepare for my classes. You know, you putting this red here is not style. It's just, you know, okay, this is a network security. Okay, these are the key points. They are there by design, not just because they are nice. So when you do that to your graphs, make sure they are communicating something. The colors you're putting, they're communicating. They're not just there for the design or just for the flowery effect. So make sure you do that. I saw about seven of the assignments. There was no sort of graph, no sort of expectation, because it's like a tender and I'm going through and I'm struggling to understand why should I give you the job. If you don't captivate me, if there's nothing interesting in your assignment, then why should I give you the job? So just one teaches you, it's just a skill. Okay, just a second, sorry about this. Okay. All right. So yeah, that's just it about the assignment. Expect such in your exam, a question like that. This is your assignment that I'm going to give you. I was just about to post it in the class. This is a case study. It's by group. And then some of the questions at the end, it's a telecoms case study. And it just talks about over-the-top apps, Skype, WhatsApp, Facebook, CRM, what is it, and all other social platforms. Then outline how the BDL process will enable you to produce this report, state the tools and techniques that you'd employ. So like I said, this is the key that you've been given. I expect you to BDL, I expect you to see discovery, model planning, model building, communication of results, things like that. Outline the role of a data scientist in the telecoms industry. You are guided by this case study. So in as much as Panzi in the telecoms industry, always remember that I'm answering with regards to the case study that has been given to me. Pana. So this case study will help you outline. At the back of your mind, you should always remember what is the role of a data scientist in a successful data analytics project. What is the role of a big data analyst? What is the role of a data analyst? What are the differences between a big data analyst and a big data analyst? Come in. Travel safe. Travel safe. Okay.
Sorry, hello, engineer.
Hello.
Sorry to take you back a little bit to the assignment question that you gave us. I'm a bit confused. Your explanation of your expectations and what I understood or thought I understood from the question. The question is saying, explain how you can accomplish the following using the BDAL, the BDAL algorithm. Then below that, there is store information, store formal and informal data, track research from that. So were we supposed to do the discovery of the data, or we're just going to see how the big data analytics lifecycle apply on these sections, the three sections that you highlighted on the question there?
Like difference is the same. It's how you answer the question. I hope you're getting me correctly. The difference, whether the question correctly, but it's how you present your solution. So, kana wakapiwa hint yakunzi using the big data analytics lifecycle. The easiest way to convince someone is to use my topics, the big data analytics lifecycle. Pagan is story in that. You just write discovery phase. From this phase, I expect to have this much data. If I have this data, this is going to tackle this question. But if you do not have that data and you think it is storing formal and informal data, of course, storing of formal and informal data is somewhere along the model design. But then where have you gotten the data from? You have gotten it from the discovery phase. So already,
okay, maybe I just got lost on the part where the question says, how would you accomplish the following? And I thought we just need to zero in on the three items which are listed below.
Okay.
Because those are what is following using the big data analytics.
All right, it's fine. Those 3 points are for emphasis. How are you going to accomplish that? The hint is use the big data analytics lifecycle. And then for emphasis, these are the 3 things I want to sing out in the big data analytics lifecycle. So we're told what is store formal. I have seen my assignments and well executed. When you're to put a discovery phase, and then they then say, okay, when you're at this phase, this is what we are going to do. We discover this data, we do this, then we see this data, and then for data preparation, what data we are sending it here and this one here. Then what was with a subtopic and storage of formal and informal information. So already I see where that topic fits in the data analytics lifecycle. Because you're not just going to get that data from nowhere, you're going to have to find it somewhere. And then you place it in its right place in the big data analytics life cycle. Remember, like I said, Kuti, it's not that you didn't understand the question, you understood, it's how you present it. This is what I'm just trying to teach the class, Kuti. Even when you go out there in the industry, the things that people understand easily are the most common topics about the subject. If it's big data, they understand MapReduce, they understand Hadoop. Those are the things they understand. So whatever case, you tackle it from a perspective that they understand. Then you say, okay, this is what I'm going to do in this stage. This one. Maybe but the course, you'll then see the question, how could you have answered it better? I'll talk about the storage of that information, because MapReduce will come into play, Hadoop distributed file system will come into play, streaming techniques will also come into play. Remember the question I had said, okay, I didn't want to give it as an assignment, but I said, okay, for me to see, are we moving at the same pace? That's why I canceled the class that day. Said, okay, let's do this assignment and then we can see if we are going the correct way. I hope that has been understood.
Yes, engineer.
Okay. All right. I'll just, like I said, Kuti, I expect the same thing from your case study question. It's due on the 3rd. When are your exams? It's due on the 3rd of September. Does anyone know when your exams are scheduled for?
End of October.
End of October?
Yes.
Okay, so I think when you submit your assignment, we're going to have our presentations then. Or you have to submit the assignment earlier than presentations the first week of October. I don't know, it's up to you. Or you prefer, other classes I usually say, treat my presentations, you submit all your work, then when we're done with the presentations, we're done with the class. So it's up to you. The class reps just communicate with me what you prefer. You want to submit the assignment end of August, so 27, and then we do the presentations around the week that 3 to 10, or you want to do all the assignments and the presentations in that same week.
I'll update you, ma'am, but I think end of August is too soon for us.
All right,
but we'll update you on the date. Okay.
All right, that's fine. Just update me. Okay, so today I'm just going to rush through this slide so that we move on to the 2 slides I want to talk about. Big data security strategy. We have what we call a network security strategy. In an organization, a network security strategy is a strategy that my network administrators, they come up with to say, this is how we are going to protect data that is coming in and going out of the network. So when we protect what is coming in, we are at a stage that is called data ingress. When we protect what is going out, it's called data egress or data output. And then when we protect what's already in the organization, we are trying to protect what we say are the data stored. So what are the sources of data ingress? Data ingress, the varieties, variety sources of data. And in this case, we might have data in transit. What do we mean data in transit? Data, remember I said now in our countries, we are still talking about what we call cloud computing. But in other countries, they're talking about edge computing, where they are saying we cannot wait for the data to go to the cloud and then we do our analytics and then the data, my results after that. They want to do the analytics at the edge of the network because of the high volumes of data and the storage space and all these challenges with cloud computing. So in a case like that, we are talking about the data that you want to secure being the data in transit. In data in transit, what form of data? Data in transit, we say velocity, which is data in transit, or data in motion. And so these are the things you need to always remember. When we talk about volume, we are talking about data in transit or data in motion. Then that way it's easy for you to say, okay, so what do I need? Do I need a CRM? Do I need an ERM? Do I need to design an ERP system for this kind of data architecture that I'm receiving? So the data that we can have structured, unstructured, semi-structured data, but most of it is unstructured data, most of the information. And then our stored data now, when you already say we are going to store data as an organization already, from a big data perspective, you're talking about Nyasha security. That's why this is under the big data security strategy. So when you're coming up with your strategy, when you've protected your data in motion, and now you want to protect your data that is stored, already you need to be security conscious, you need to be security savvy. You need to have those skills to say, okay, how do I protect from my IDS, my intrusion detection systems? Remember we said, Kuti, why the ethical is in front of the hacking is just to make it more law friendly, more police friendly. But otherwise, hacking initially was just an easy way of doing something. And it is chipinda mu exam tinogadzira tuma disk, so toto tumasida chichichi tuma blueprint. And I don't know kuti vanhu vachiri kuzviita here zvino, but when I was in my undergrad, I used to create a CD around, I would wake up around 2 a.m., 5 a.m. I'm done with the course that whole semester. And then 5 a.m. I go have my shower. 6 a.m. ndikukrema kubana 6 kusvikana 9 pandopinda muexam. What am I doing in that? And things like that. But to me, yes, ndikukrema, but it's serving the purpose. That's it. That is what we call hacking. That was the initial essence of the word hacking, because a hack is just finding a simple way of doing a seemingly difficult task. That is what we call a hack. So when you then say, okay, I'm an ethical hacker, we are saying, okay, I'm finding ways. The issue comes when I take the CD and exam home. That is just okay. But when I take the CD and I step inside the exam hall with it, that is it's no longer ethical. Yes, it was a hack, but it's no longer what? Ethical. That's all a different type of hat. I no longer have good intentions. I'm not a white hat, I'm not a gray hat. I'm now a black hat. So when you are saying, I want to protect data in an organization, you have to stay at the CD level where you say this CD is going to be left outside the exam hall. It's not going to get inside. And when you can't protect from the CD getting inside, we say you have failed as a data analyst. Because you are doing the analysis, you're doing the analytics, which, let me just say this in passing, there's a difference between analysis and analytics. And you need to understand it at this stage, protection. Why? Because when I bring a project, for example, I bring a projector into a class, and then the projector, I don't know if you've noticed that sometimes you know the screen cannot red and isn't cannot the screen read purple. What we call analysis is me putting the projector in front of the class and saying this projector has a cable. It has a cable that connects to my laptop, which may be an HDMI cable, USB cable. It also has the power socket that brings power to the projector. This cable also has 5 buttons at the top, one to start, one to zoom in, one to zoom out, one to do that and to do that. That is what we call analysis. I'm simply stating what is there in front of my eyes. When the projector starts, I know how the projector is supposed to work, because what type of a person am I in the big data analytics lifecycle? The one with the domain expertise. And I understand that projector is supposed to beam my PowerPoint. The screen is supposed to be white and supposed to switch off the light, because that's how a projector works. But when the projector starts projecting a purple screen, that is when the analytics process starts. Trying to figure out, okay, given all this information that I have at first hand, which is analysis, what could be wrong? The moment you start asking questions like why, what, how, that is analytics. You're now trying to figure out. And you venture into a different type of analytics, which I'll re-emphasize in this class. So, but not, no, I think HDMI cable in a problem. Let's change. Amaris, can we have your HDMI projecting your white? I'm trying to eliminate things one by one. It's not the start button, because already it's beaming something on the whiteboard. So the power buttons, all the buttons are working well. So that's not the fan, because this thing is not overheating. I do not hear a sound. So what could it be? And then that is what we call analytics. So when you're storing your data and you're trying to protect the data that you already have, you go through the same phases of saying, okay, so what do I have? And that is analysis. already network administrator, no, the network is configured like this, like this, like this. You're hired and you're a big data analyst. You need to understand network infrastructure organization and say, okay, data network configure so. Apapani DMZ, apapani cluster, apapani LAN, LAN configure it's a bus or it's a ring. You understand those things. That's analysis. And then when they start telling you, but data really, why is it that Canada I'm saver? I don't have to remember what I have to say, and you then start to see, okay, am I experiencing bottlenecks in the network? What is it that's making my model not be sufficient or the infrastructure not sufficient? Because you will face cases where in an organization you quote it, or you in your documents or for your bidding. You need the safe rakati, you need this, you need this, and you get to the organization and all those things are there. But somehow your model is very slow. And that is the process where your analytics starts to take place. Why? Why is this happening? Because the project sponsors will say, but we have given you everything that you said you want. So that's why the whole concept of networks and understanding how a network works, how IPs work, and it's very important if you're going to work with data, if you're going to keep working in a digital age, in a technological age, you need to understand the interconnection of devices. So networks invest in a short course in networking just to understand, because you're always going to make big issues out of very small issues if you don't understand networking. You're going to create my analytics sandbox and you're going to see things going into your live network and you don't understand why, but it's because of the connection you've used, the network connection you've used. You've not closed my ports and offer now close, or you've not opened my ports and offer now open. So you need to understand a bit of networking for you to say, okay, I think I can debug this problem. I think I can analyze and see what is the problem. So you need to because encryption at rest. Am I going to encrypt my data at rest? Am I going to encrypt it in motion, my passwords? Because if you encrypt your password in motion, it's safer. If you encrypt it at rest, it can depend upon it. I'm in the middle attacks. And what happens to your data? What does the law say if it's data about my health, and all? Strong user encryption, intrusion detection planning, distributed cluster. When you go through these slides, I cannot go through paragraph by paragraph or sentence by sentence. When you go through them, take note of my spots. I can highlight whether by black or by red. It's not just a design, it is by design. Then the third one, which is output data. How am I going to report my data, and who does this in the big data analytics lifecycle? And it's okay. Now this is where we see my data scientists building my models and creating my dashboards. Is it a dashboard? Is it an application software that I'm going to design? If it's an application software, it means I need a software developer somewhere in the chain. Because it doesn't always mean that for you to be a good data analyst, you need to be a software developer. I have so many friends who don't even like programming at all, but they're very good, very brilliant big data analysts. So it's not always the case, you need to understand programming or because most people always have this resentment, big data, also say code and all that. It's not always the case. And it's not always the case also that you need to be very good in Python or you need to be very good in R. It just makes your job easy, but it's not always the case that makes you a good analytics engineer. Then end users do not contain regulated data, my security compliance, they said they're not corporate governance, so given all these challenges that got around last class, my log files, challenges, is big data a savior? Is it a curse? Is it a blessing or a curse? It's a question that always comes up in my conferences. I wonder, so is this a blessing or it's a curse? If we then have to know all the security strategies, we have to know networking, we have to know, so why is big data such a buzz? Why does the Gartner hype chat always talk about big data this, big data that, big data all that? And the world of data was unavoidable. It was always going to come to, as long as technology is advancing, data will always explode. So whether we like it or not, big data was always going to come. So if you take it as a curse, it's fine, it's fair and fine. But if you take it as a savior, it means you become more alert and you accept the already happening. Yeah, which is the world is exploding, the data universe is exploding, data is becoming the new gold. Whoever has data has money. And we trade data, we do this. J7, my blockchain technologies, they are built on data, they are algorithms. Who knows what to do this? Who has the knowledge to do something? It's all about what? It's all about data. So it has given us this help cyber analysts to predict my possibilities of invasion and intrusion, because we now have predictive analytics. That became, predictive analytics has always been there, but it gained popularity due to the rise in big data. When you have a bigger data set, you have a more accurate model. So when you do your thesis or whenever you do your project, it's always advisable to have a data set of around 5,000 entries. If you have a data set of 200 entries and I don't know, it's just a test case. It's not really. Hello?
Hello?
Hello. I think we lost the engineer.
Hello?
Hi, Nyasha.
You were there. Thought you lost me there.
Ishmael. Ishmael, we are on slide 24. I think you can continue. Or not Batram Road.
Tendai, what do you say?
Terrible.
Panaya pa assignment, guys. Mamax are to Razota. Pana
I draw a booster for next assignment. You can see telecoms, don't worry.
Tango is a rainbow food, and hence it make it very pretty and colorful.
Sunday, I'm not going to wear my boots and they are with that lecture.
even though with the time yatakapiwa guys tarisai kuti yanga iri nguva yakaita sei and knowing kuti vamwana vanenge asitomboiripo zvavo kunyanya Ishmael naoto zvawakaita kugrupu rako iwewe
manje vanongondida ndakadaro samebo manje kugrupu kwacho
Yeah, mawai.
airi zama hari pasikeri kutoona vanhu vafoira kutoona zvedu pavanhu vese 49 vari muno muti vakanyora zvine svinu imomo
nguva gari mahwani pakatoipa.
Yeah, so at that time you apply our minds to the question.
I remember Ishmael Achiti Ingosa meeting participation months.
Guys, nyango mukapiwa gore rese hapana zvamunomboita. Izvozvi zvimatimandani corporate governance.
The main issue was there are some other guys who were not attending the lectures, so one was catch up a weekend, right? So you are tackling a question without the background in the subject.
Fara, a good that Zakavwa my lectures in there.
Even the first lectures, like I told you, it's also right. Unenge one idea of what the lecture is all about. You understand? It's not really what it was covered, but at least you would have an appreciation of where we're coming from.
Yeah.
I get it. I know it's fine. Don't worry, guys. Everything is gonna be all right. Yes, our lecturer is back now. I think so.
If you look at the lectures, the way we have done them, lectures, even that question, the structure of how you were supposed to attempt that question is there. In a group, look at that structure. We were just supposed to change my examples like structure and then try to solve the problem as required. But the problem is that this is something that submit because look, in any Ndoshanda Monday to Saturday from 6 to 5 every day. In my meetings, so that was a disadvantage. And the time frame actually 6 hours. So I think if I'm not chema now engineer, they were another 2 days.
For 6 hours, my gets like a the whole evening.
Even tikapiwa iri weekend it's good because vanhu vanenge varipo zvepakati pevhiki vedu yamahwani vamwe vedu isusu.
Munguchema neko.
Munguchema
nema assignments. Thank you.
I know engineer the last one ndo akaruma one time because nyaya dzekubasa harima one chaiwo. Saka time yokufunga chaicho ngapasina kana tsokwana.
Engineer bye papa kashata bye because one guy I'm speaking for myself. You need that you can obana anything because 6 to 8 the man a meeting after a meeting. And I also zona kuti apa paitika error kutomboda uzama kutaroona na class rep ngwato dzimafoni.
Anyway, we'll always see how it goes at the end. Kana coursework coursework you see, I don't know if I also mentioned this with past classes. Kune mamwe maclass are not prefer, but we want our coursework before the exam. I'm always ready to do that because my assignments remember ndatoma evaluator kudhara ndogona ndisati ndakureturn back to you, but I've already evaluated them. Ndangomirira ngoclicka button rekungoti publish to all chat, but mamarks enyu ndinenge nditori nawo nditozoti group iri mark haircuts. That's the beauty of Google Class. Then sometimes the reason I don't publish those, like now you can see ndakatomaka udhara but handisanda kudzosera. The reason I don't publish is because pandozogadzira coursework, I try to sanitize those things. And then pandonozomaka your final exam, I just try, if I'm in a very good mood, to make sure that people pass. It doesn't mean to relax your exam and things like that, but you just try and make sure that you balance things out. But when I return your coursework to you, it's an official record. In ukafoira exam or foira exam, I hope you are getting what I'm saying.
Yes, engineer, thank you very much. We actually want you to sanitize them as much as possible. We really appreciate it.
And we would want you to be in a very good mood, or the best mood.
The very best mood.
You know, when I say sanitize, Max, it doesn't really mean that I'll give you something you don't deserve. No, but it means if I say for exam, so coursework, let me maybe be lenient and say no, I'm going to, if it was out of 100 and no group was, or no person attained 80, I then say, okay, let me mark this out of 80 now. Not putting the add drama marks or anything. I'm just saying, okay, that's how I'm saying that's how I mean when I say I sanitize. I try to sanitize. Okay, I'm now marking it out of 80. It doesn't necessarily mean drama marks. But anyway, if you have a 70 and I'm now marking it out of 80, it's good for you. If you have a 50 and I'm now marking it out of 80, it's good for you. If you have a 40, it means you're now per half, which is also good. But then some people really insist before the exam, and Nina will always send them to you, because now is just a matter of saying print and share to you. Saka I really want the class okay, so what do you prefer? And also what's best with this class, because my classrooms are not same. My streams are not same. Will then go and say, so that's why they chose to
engineer, we want to work with how you want to work. We are at your, we are there for you. We want you to tell us what we should do. Don't worry about what we want. We want you to tell us what you should do.
Oh, no, it's fine. I'll just see as we go. And then go on towards the exam. How is the coursework? If it's fine, I'll just always give it to you if no one failed. If it's not, I'll just tell you with a exam. Then I'll see. Okay.
So also engineer, maybe like assignment at if it's possible, could one kind of return something from you, a hint like what we were supposed to do. Could you go to like my future assignments at even in terms of revision, GG, kind of it's just a request.
Okay, it's a request, but already, that's why I had given that assignment, was already in that PowerPoint, pani pakato on the solution. I mean, we're going to through that PowerPoint. Pani pakato on the solution, talk about this, talk about this. There is even marking guide. Even if you say, can we have past exam papers and can we see a marking guide? They are just hints which I expect the student to explain about this. Not what I'll write the whole paragraph. Big data analytics, life cycle discovery phase and all that. No, it's a hint that I expect students to do this A, B, C, D. So I'm sure PowerPoint is slide number 1. Is it or 2? Let me check. Can you see this?
Yes.
Can you see this now?
Yes.
Can you see slide dragon the solution? Okay. So until I'm going to hint, this is a project report. So remember the key objectives. And the key objectives of this question was to answer this question. And answer these questions. And also, new director was recently appointed, wants to, this is an objective. And this is an objective. The objective is this, with the help of the big data analytics, explain. So Ababa, hint, show your competences, use tools, explain the data. Should not report, okay, this is just a key report thing. So phase 1, discovery. You should talk about my team members and their roles. What are you going to get from them? Big data analyst. So in discovering my data, the person from IT is going to A, B, C, D. This is what I expect. Data engineer and big data analyst, I also want this. The data scientist is also going to do this. And so already you've mentioned the key members in your project, their roles, and already when you say, I have the business user, project sponsor, project manager, you already know the data that you're going to get from them, the states of the data. You talk about that. The data fell into 2 categories: internal innovation contest, innovation and research activities from around the world. Then I created my hypothesis. Remember, Chitaro discovery, some hypothesis you're trying to prove or reject. So I'm going to use descriptive analytics to do this, predictive analytics to do this. Then my preparation, I'm going to set up an analytics sandbox, and then I'm going to condition my data and normalize and reduce the noise in the data, and then poor quality data and how they could subsequently impact my further steps in the analytics are also going to be dealt with, misspelled, error space, and things like that. I don't think there is a better explanation of how you should have handled this, especially when this thing was in the PowerPoint. That's why I was expecting the hint solution. Hint. I expected to see all these faces in your words. But I'm sure PowerPoint is really more genius. Question and that's it. And it identify the right milestones, trace how people move ideas from each milestone towards the goal, trace how ideas die, compare times and outcomes using few different methods and things like, okay, I'm going to use, there was a group that did exceptional in this question. I think when I return your marks, I'll actually talk about it. Then model building, whatever models, and a few different methods. Then say, okay, I'm going to use natural language processing for textual descriptions, because obviously the innovation, my data per discovery is going to be part of my interviews. If it's recorded, it needs to be transcribed. And when you transcribe that data, some natural language processing is going to come into play. And if it's not, the discovery phase was not from interviews, maybe it was through social media, since ARIMA centers of excellence. So I'm going to do some social network analysis and see, do I have team members who already know each other that can help in building this center of excellence? Social graphs and visualizations. Always a key important thing, my visualizations. Then after that, communication of results, high density of innovators we found in Chakati, or you expect something like that. So now you're giving my comments, my assignments, use demi data and say, this is what you would expect. I would expect that a successful project will identify my hidden innovators, or from the social network analytics, I would find the high density of the people who can actually build this in terms of research. Chief Technologist Officer launched longitudinal studies to do what? It's part of joining one or discovery, then operationalize. So operationalize, now you're also assuming, okay, given from the question itself, given how short it was, there isn't much data that I have. This is just the case study that I was given, and now I'm tasked to do this. So these are my recommendations. And you need more data in the future. Some data was sensitive, para-initiative. So this is just a hint. And then tracking global. I hope this is clear.
Yes, engineer, is clear. But since we now know what is expected of us, could we possibly resubmit redo our assignments?
This one. This is a case study. case studies group work, just like assignment yamaka ita, then this is individual. This is the only individual assignment you will have, and you have presentations because your class is very big. So you have this individual assignment, this is group work, your presentations are group work. That assignment you did was also group work. I don't know if you think, Kuti, you can. I'll think about it. I'll tell the class reps. I'll tell the class reps if that's okay, so that we can just move on with the class. Can you still hear me, or?
Yes, engineer, we can hear you clearly.
Okay, that's fine. So now it brings me to this thing. This slide, I don't know if it's very visible, but I hope you can just see what I'm trying to elaborate. There's something that we call the data site. Data site, let me see if I can find a different slide that is. Let me try and see if I can find it. A graph that is much more clear. Okay. Can you see this? Or the first one is better? Hello?
As long as you, when you are explaining, as long as you probably point where you are, we can still revisit it, but it's not really visible.
All right, it's fine. Let me just try to go with this one. I'll look for another one and just share on the Google Classroom. Okay, so there's something that we call the data site. Data site is the types of analytics depending on the view at which you are looking at the situation. So it's also something you can bring out on that assignment. Question global centers of excellence. Someone can try to be descriptive, someone can try to be diagnostic, someone can try to be predictive or prescriptive. And what do we mean? Data side, connection on the hindsight, connection on the insight, connection on the foresight. And hindsight is looking things backward. Foresight is looking at things in a forward direction. And insight is looking at things in the now. And in these stages, a hindsight, insight, foresight, you don't apply the same analytic technique or tool. Hindsight, you're trying to answer this question, what happened? So when you look at the data side, hindsight, you're trying to understand what happened. And when you try to understand what happened, you venture into type of analytics in the descriptive analytics. And descriptive analytics is like, let me keep giving a security example so that I keep hammering what Engineer Shonu asked me to do. Let's say an organization has been hacked. Then what should I do? The first thing you're trying to do, that life cycle. And it, what's the name of that life cycle? You take it of security. I don't remember that one. What then you're trying to do initially is you're trying to understand, oh, so how did it happen? So you get to the reception, and then there's a cleaning lady, and then she tells you, no, Dashika, and the screen was blue. So what did you do? Usually when I get in the reception machine, it shows good, oh, welcome to RepTech Consultancy, and there's a face. But today the screen was just blue, and there was this devilish face, and I assumed something bad was happening. So I unplugged the machine. So that is descriptive analytics. You're trying to understand what happened. You can actually write a comprehensive report based on just what you think happened from the data that you gather. There's some people who are just good at that, analyzing, okay, so Taheko as an organization, how did this happen? And trying to trace it, okay, Sagamonoyo, I created this, this case, we are doing a lot of cryptocurrency and blockchain, so allow me to use those examples, can actually security. So this person was creating my wallets per blockchain and sending money off the platform to these people, and then selling off this money, and then this person has a local bank account. So you're just describing what happened. There isn't much that you're going to do. And so hindsight or descriptive analytics is usually called analysis, because you're just simply explaining what you see at face value, or what you think happened at face value. That is what we call descriptive analytics. And then between hindsight and insight, there's something that we call diagnostic analytics. In diagnostic analytics, you are trying to understand, why did it happen? Oh, what I did, Ashika screen iri blue. Why? Why did that happen? Oh, I think someone was entering our network illegally. Our network was not configured well, or whatever traps we put, they did not work. Our demilitarized zone did not work, or our firewall did not work, or intrusion detection system did not work. You're trying to understand, okay, that is what we call diagnostic analytics. So you're hired by an organization, and they say, okay, this is our files, let's put it into a different perspective. It's an organization, it's a telecoms company. These are our files. We have the same promotion as, I'm just going to use remember I said this is just an example, it's not real. Okay, we have One Fusion, but then people always prefer to buy expensive data from Econet. Why? The first part is the descriptive analytics. Okay, One Fusion is way cheaper than my private Wi-Fi bundles and all, but why is it that people are buying private Wi-Fi bundles as opposed to Wi-Fi? That will move a different zone analytics, which is, why did it happen? Why is it happening like that? And what I know is happening is, okay, people are preferring private Wi-Fi bundles to Wi-Fi bundles. That is descriptive. Why is it happening? Is, okay, these ones, they have a huge customer base. They have a long-standing relationship with their customers. They have easy access to their customers. See, they have mobile apps. They have this. They have marketing, aggressive marketing skills. You're not trying to do some sort of diagnostic to say, okay, why is this happening? I mean, Net One is the network of all ages. It is the widest coverage, but why does this one have the largest number of subscribers? Okay, they have the largest number of subscribers because they have EcoCash, which was the first mobile money platform that was introduced. So already by virtue of that, now we have a large number of subscribers, even though they do not have the widest coverage. So that type of just from the top of your head, but this question that I've been given, okay. That is from the top of it. But now you have to prove, because when you do big data analytics, some of the things from the top of your head, it makes sense. It always has to make sense because you're the domain expert. And the people with the telecoms company, I don't think it's because of A, B, C, D, but you have to prove it because we believe in numbers, we believe in facts. So you now have to find, okay, what model am I going to use in descriptive analytics? Am I going to use my cluster graphs? Am I going to use my decision trees? Am I going to use, things like that? What type of algorithm am I going to use? Why did it happen? What can really explain? Good, okay, yes, they have the widest network coverage. Tinema base station agawanda, tinema, you know, or this one can say, okay, mobile switching center is always down. That's why this in this area, they don't use echo cache. So my network subscribers, A15, people prefer this, even if the overall hypothesis is everyone prefers private Wi-Fi. But particularly in the area of Chipinge, people prefer Wi-Fi. Why? So that why question is what we are calling diagnostic analytics. And then predictive analytics now is what will happen. So I'll go back, I'm using 2 examples, so I'll go back to the first one and say, okay, what will happen? Okay, you've pulled the plug, and then we've determined, you have said, okay, the screen was blue, and then Pamazo developer's room, or the hub, the first screen was blue, then Pamazo all the screens in that row were blue. So what does this mean? And trying to understand what happened. Okay, so maybe this is a virus, or maybe this is a worm, or this is a ransomware. It's propagated from the reception machine to the developer's room. Maybe it's a different network. That's why it's also important to understand what's network, so that you can protect your data in a particular cluster or in a particular sub-network. Okay, it moved from this machine to that machine to that machine. So when you now move to a zone with predictive analytics, you need to have all this information at hand. Okay, what happened? Why did it happen? For you to be able to tell what will happen. That's why you find even level of difficulty goes up as we go higher. The value of a descriptive analyst, even in the industry, the amount of money you're paid here is less than here, is much, much less than here, much, much less than B. Because this is the level of difficulty and this is the level of value of your skill. So if you're predictive analyst, this is where most people want to get to. But you don't just get here if you don't have the skills. If you don't have the descriptive analytics, if you don't know how to talk to people, if you're not a people person, it's difficult for you to be a very good predictive analyst, because you need to be able to talk to people, you need to be social, you need those kind of things. My people skills, their socio-emotional, or that's why people some of it even register to vote and all that. The first example I give, my psychological operations, because they fall in this descriptive analytics. What happened in the last election? Why did it happen? These are all psychological skills. So we launch Masai Ops. And in predictive analytics, now you have all this data. This is part of information gathering. You now predict what will happen. Also, it's propagating through our network. How does the worm work? It propagates until to the last machine on the network, until the edge of the network. So what are we going to do? We need to make sure that we cut this network. We need to, or contain this network. We need to make sure that this is just one cluster. If it's the example here, we acquired here. If it's the telecoms, okay, so if this continues, what's going to happen? We're going to have a lot of our subscribers crossing over to what? To Econet, even though we have the widest coverage is Net One. So what should we do? And now when you say what should we do, this is when we go to the prescriptive analytics part, because already you now understand, okay, our people will cross over, and okay, the network will all become corrupted. So what can we do? This background, how can we make it happen, is the same as what should we do. Indeed. If it's something you want to recur, your question is how can we make it happen? It's prescriptive analysis. That's how you can what? You can keep achieving this value. Return on investment, your cash flow projections, just keep doing what you're doing. Or maybe even to get a higher profit margin, do A, B, C, D. That's how can we make it happen. This is now if it's the case of a private Wi-Fi bundle. Okay, we are leading. We are leading predictive analytics. Okay, so we are going to continue beating Wi-Fi. So what should we do? And this is prescriptive analytics. Keep doing what you're doing and all that. If we've been hacked and we say, okay, how can we make it happen? We want to protect our network in the near future. This is now where you ask this question. What will happen? Our network will become corrupt. So we need to protect it. So how can we make it happen? How can we protect our network? It's still a part of prescriptive analytics. So guys, we need to hire Okta, we need to hire this other company, we need to hire all these organizations that have to do with with identity logins, and we can protect our networks, and we can use my HIDs, NIDs, things like that. So I hope this question has been very clear, because this is also a very typical exam question. It just doesn't come like this as a diagram, but if you understand this diagram the way I've explained it, it will be easy for you to answer the exam question. Are there any questions before? Excuse me. Before I move to the next slide. Silence, I'm assuming there is no question. Then relationship of data, information, and intelligence. This is the relationship when you have your operational environment and you have a collection of data. This is your raw data. When you start processing and exploiting that data, you have what you call information. And when you do analysis and production, you have intelligence. And when this cycle iterates, it's just the normal process of big data analytics life cycle. You keep pre-processing your data, information, intelligence. Data, information, intelligence. Courage just used to be data, information. That's how computers used to work. Information is processed data. Data is raw facts and figures found in an operational environment. That's the basic computing definition of what is data, what is information from ICDL. But now we have something that is called intelligence because of the rise of business intelligence and data science. And what is intelligence? When we do analysis and production of the information, we gather what we call intelligence. How can big data be used in security analysis, network traffic, suspicious traffic patterns? We can spoof them out, web transactions, identity theft, network servers, fraud detection, user credentials, cloud card cloning. This is an example of a project I did a while back. The number of IP address, how frequently did this IP address try to attack my machine? This IP address more than 20 times, this IP, you know. Gate forensics, I would love to play this video, but we do not have time. I would like to do these demos, but we do not have time. So I'll just share them with you per Google Classroom so that you can see. Gate forensics, gate is a unique biological signature that is found from the way you move your body. From your step, even if we calculate your gait score, it's different. So now we are using this, gather that my data points on your body and have your unique gait signature. And at one point it was used to solve a murder crime. Just by analyzing, this person was wearing a face mask, they robbed a jewelry store, but they were able, the Australian government caught them using gait technology by saying, this person was walking like this. We've analyzed these people in Melbourne, and this is the exact person with that gait signature. And eventually that person confessed. And that's when gait forensics is being used by various organizations and governments as an official unique identifier. Adoption of a security strategy, security analytics strategy, how do you do it? And this is it. Then we have compliance. You have to make sure your software is compliant. The importance of compliance is companies need to be vigilant when it comes to maintaining a proper understanding of regulatory compliance requirements. And also this falls under the corporate governance. Risk management, you also have to factor in the industry. Is it a public or private company? Nature of the data that is created, is it collected and stored? Nothing that your understanding of my laws, my data protection laws. Zimbabwe is on its way to have a data protection law. You need to know it if you're a big data analyst, because you're generating data, you're manipulating people's data. How you use it, you're governed by that law. It's then auditing and protection. Nyayema intellectual property. No one used to do intellectual property in ICTs, but due to the rise in technology is evading every industry. We now have the issue of intellectual property. Who owns this software? Intellectual property rights. It's always been a nightmare in big data analytics. You need to understand what is IP. There's a course that is offered by WIPO, World International Property Organization, that is free online, Gamer Intellectual Property. That course gets you any job you'd like when it comes to remote jobs. So I advise you to do that job. Then, now, I do not want to talk much about the characteristics, a big data, velocity, volume, variety. We have already talked about this, so I'll just talk about it in passing. This is what we're going to cover in this slide. The V's, the databases, modern database types, the architecture, relational, federated, and MapReduce. Big data tools. We have what we call my mathematical tools, then we have my analytic techniques, then we have my applications. My mathematical tools with fundamental mathematics, we have statistics, we have optimization methods. Okay. States data. Then my data analytics techniques with data mining, which I believe could get to create a foot. I think anyone choose at the ICT strand. Machine learning tagato signal processing is part of computer vision, which is part of machine learning. That's why you see this arrow. And I believe with the Doc Panache, you might have done already signal processing or computer vision. Visualization method, we've already done that. Then my neural networks, it's also part of what? Machine learning, feed forward, backpropagation neural networks. They are interchanging. It's also now in analytic technique on its own, but it's part of what? Machine learning. Then my application area is social computing, biomedicine, finance, astronomy. There are a number of what application areas for this. This is just a simple explanation. The optimization methods they used for solving quantitative problems, statistics, collection, organization, and interpretation of data, data mining, clustering, analysis, and classification. Machine learning for designing algorithms that help systems evolve different behavior and business can make intelligent decisions. So machine learning is simply there for us to have my data-driven decisions. Social network analytics, visualization. Then we have what we call acid properties. Acid properties, there's every database have my traditional database, they do I observe anonymous acid properties. And when you say I observe anonymous acid properties, A was for atomicity, then consistency, isolation, and durability. So atomicity is, ideally they call it the nothing, the all or nothing rule. It's either a transaction commits or a transaction rolls back. A transaction goes as a one. Whatever you debit should be credited. Whatever you credit should be okay. All right. So for example, we have something like this. When you go to a bank and you do a transaction, this transaction needs to complete to the end. And what do we mean when we say a transaction needs to complete to the end? So, pana but getting a 1, getting a 2, and I want to send money from A to B, and this is you sending money to your spouse. So a transaction can either what? Complete, and pana but what? Complete. Or a transaction can either roll back. So can I mean the guy transaction okay, that's what to say. It's because this process is not what has not completed. It's the all or nothing rule. Transaction either has to commit or it has to roll back. And if that doesn't happen, it leaves the database in an inconsistent state. And when we say it leaves the database in an inconsistent state, it brings us to the next C. Database needs to be in a consistent state. So transaction, if it doesn't observe the nothing or all wrong, whatever has been debited has not been credited. And when things like that happen, there's a problem in our database. Overdraft, because a certain rule has not been observed, which is what atomicity. So most database administrators and most data engineers, because it slows down the whole process, the chain of events, or the way a transaction is supposed to watch, the time in which a transaction is supposed to complete. So it leaves our database in an inconsistent state. So to avoid things like that, there is a concept that comes with isolation. In isolation, if I'm sharing a card with my husband, if he goes to a shop and he swipes and he needs to bank to wallet, the database should stay in a consistent state and the transactions should be isolated. To say, in any bank to wallet, and my husband does a balance inquiry, or my husband swipes my shop and then I do a bank to wallet, and find the old money in the account. Maria withdrawing from there was some latency kare kekuti munhu ainoshandisa card ndeinroita kana zuva rese mari yese yareflecta kuti yadidactwa, and then someone else goes on to TV sales kuchiroitwa higher purchase and you buy something, and then later on wautanga kuteerwa nevanhu vedate collection kuti no makabirira chii higher sales. I mean, the cheap TV. I mean, higher something. Then there are times, at one point, I did my master's in India. And then I traveled to a different country. And I was supposed to meet my spouse there. And then I did not have any money. I had $100 in my card. Ndashika airport. Ndobva swiper. Ndaka withdraw pa ATM pa airport. Nda withdraw $100 and yaina kubuda. Yaregeza kubuda. Nda receive an email notification on my phone with the Marietta Toro and this number, and I didn't have any money now. That was all the money that I had. Okay, that was all the money that I had. I struggled simply because a certain bank was not observing my asset properties. I then had to call, I had to wait for him to get in range because he was traveling from Zimbabwe, I was traveling from India, we were meeting in Malaysia. And then I had to wait for him to say, okay, can I have a stop over somewhere and say, can you please pay for my taxi so that I go to the hotel that we're supposed to go? Imagine the inconvenience. It was all the money that I had, and you travel to a foreign land for the first time. It's not in a place I know. I don't know anyone there. I'm waiting for someone, and all the $100 I had has been taken. So those are some of the challenges with not observing my asset properties with traditional databases. Whereas Mario that this happened sometime in 2017, 2018, somewhere there. 2017, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere there. I received that money last year, only last year. All this while, my renting in suspense account.